Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and this amazing series. I'm Aditya. In this series, we are using Next.js and Garchi CMS to create a headless e-commerce app. So without any further ado, let's begin with today's video. Okay, so in the last video, we saw how to proceed with the authentication flow. But before I begin this video today, I want to make two corrections in that. It's actually my mistake, actually. I apologize. Sorry for that. Here in the use effect, actually, if you see, we aren't passing any dependency array. Because of that, it is going to go in an infinite loop. So that's why we need to say here like a blank array so that it doesn't go in infinite loop and it only runs once. The other mistake here is that we are using res.data to set our logged in state, but we need to say res.data.logged in because that's what we are passing from the backend. And there we go. Then we have normal things here. Now let's add a product to our cart. Add to cart. Let's pick up anything from here. Let's say this. Let's go to the cart. Now here, what I need to do is I want to have a login, which is already here, the login button. But if I'm already logged in, I should see the payment container. So let me show you how it works. First thing first, let's go to the login page over here from here. And then here in the login page, let's add inside the login form, which is this one actually. So once we log in, we need to not need to console here. We need to process somewhere, or we need to go to the cart page or somewhere where we can like at least have or see our products. So what I'm going to do here is first I'm going to get use router from next router. So import. Then here I'm going to say const router equal to use router. And once we have our router state here in the function, or rather inside this, I'm going to say router.replace because I don't want to get back to the login page once we are logged in. Of course, people can go back there by putting the URL. We can avoid that using the, a middleware or just a get server side prop function here, which will redirect them back where they came from. So what we need to do now is we need to navigate depending upon whether we started our purchase journey or not. So suppose if we started our purchase journey, that means we should go to the cart page. But sometimes you might want the customer to go to the product page again so that they can have recurring sales. So what I'm going to do is anything goes. I'll just send them back to the front page or the product page so that they can just continue with the journey or go to the cart page depending upon their own decision. It's totally optional. It's like you can keep it wherever you like. So what matters is the route should be here. So here I'm going to say just take me to the front page. So let's go back and see what happens. So if I log in here now with the normal credentials, there we go, and I'm on the front page. That's great. So if I go to cart, that's great. I can see the pay option here and the payment container or the payment element. Now where is this payment element coming from? Well, from the tabs, you might have guessed it right. This is coming from Stripe API or using the Stripe API. So to use Stripe API, what you need to first do is need to have a Stripe account. I'm assuming that you already have created a Stripe account. It's very easy to create a Stripe account. All you need to do is go to stripe.com, get started, through the registration process. And as you follow the registration process, once everything is done, like you verified your email and everything, and if you're using the production mode, then you might need to provide your bank details. So all that things are done. Once everything's are done, then you can have this, like you will see this dashboard, and in that dashboard you will see there is a developers option and also there is a test mode option. Now if you're using Stripe payment or if you're testing with Stripe payment, make sure that this test mode option is on, because this test mode option is useful when you're you're literally in your development environment, you're testing it, then you can see the test data. If you turn this off, then you will see all the data in the production mode. So when you deploy your website on server, when it's in production mode, at that time there will be real-time transactions or real-world transactions, then those transactions will be visible here. So make sure that when you're testing, just put this on test mode, or if you want to see the test data, put this on test mode. If you're not testing, just make it back to production mode. So going to the developers part, here you will need API keys to get the now Stripe is very amazing in this case that it provides separate API keys for developer mode, separate API keys for live mode. To get the API keys for developer mode, make sure that this test mode is on. To get the API keys for the live mode, you just need to turn it off and then you will see this live keys. So going back over here, for the test keys, you need to two considerations. First is the publishable keys and the secret key. Same for the live keys actually. And the publishable key is something, as the name suggests, will be used by your client-side code or your JavaScript, which is your client-side code again. So that will be used by your JavaScript from client-side, and your secret key will be consumed by the server-side. Make sure anything goes. Do not expose this secret key, because this secret key is useful, or it's very important when it comes to transactions. So if you reveal this secret key, then that might be a big security issue. So make sure that the secret key is never ever revealed. So the best way to store this is storing in an environment variable on the server-side environment as a server-side environment variable. So make sure that secret key is kept somewhere securely and it's not exposed to your front end or to the browser or to the client. Publishable key can be exposed to the client, that's fine, because this is required for Stripe to generate those elements. And even if you keep anything in the publisher in the client side, of course it will be seen. So that's why the name is publishable key. What I'm going to do is I've already put this in my environment variables in my .env file actually. So secret key is Stripe secret key environment variable, and publishable key is next public Stripe client key environment variable. So because next public is just to make sure that it's exposed by the client. So if I go back to my code again, now if I go to card.js, here I'm rendering this page as a server-side rendered page. Why? Because I need to make sure that when I come to this page, I need to make sure that whether the person is logged in or not, or whether the user is logged in or not. Now, if you're using third-party authentication, then you might need to do things differently. But as we are using Garchi CMS or login API, and we are storing our UID, as in the last video, as an encrypted UID in the cookies, I'm just using that cookies, just using the UID in the cookies to make sure that user is logged in or not. If the UID is set, that means it is logged in. If it is not set, that means it is not logged in. So if it is logged in, or whatever is the state, so this state is passed to the card as a prop, and that is going to the card table as a prop again with a logged in prop. Now inside the card table, if I go and see over here you will see this component we created in the video before, like 2 videos before something, where we rendered the card page. So inside this, we are passing it as a prop over here. So this is the new addition, logged in prop. And that logged in prop, what we need to do is just use it to conditionally render either the payment component or the login button. Cool. So once we have this, next thing we need to do is, once like user is logged in and everything, next thing to do is to accept the payment and continue with the flow. Now to do that, here I have a payment.jsx or a payment component. So how it works? Now you have two options. One, you could use ready-made components which comes with React Stripe.js, and these components are nothing but the wrapper for actual Stripe elements. So you can use those and have a somewhat less code. But if you want to stick with vanilla Stripe or vanilla JS way of doing Stripe elements or rendering Stripe elements, you can also do that. I'll show you the React way. For the vanilla one, I'll just go through the docs with you in a brief. So let's see the vanilla one first. So how the vanilla JS part works is, you will need to have the Stripe library, the client-side library, which is this one, installed if you are using a framework like React, Vue, or Angular. There's a web option, there is a iOS option, Android option, React Native. So we'll go with the web one. So if you go to Stripe docs payment, accept a payment. So if you go to the docs, there will be payments, and there is this accept a payment option in the sidebar. So once you select that, then you can choose your backend. So currently we are using Node. So let's assume that you are also using Node backend, but you can also use other languages. So you will need the server-side Stripe package for Node. Once you have that, then you need to create a payment intent, which you will also need to create in the React flow as well. So once you create a payment intent, we will see the process how to create a payment intent as well. Then you need to proceed forward and pass that intent to your front end. Now, to your front end, it will go as a client secret. And once you have that client secret, then in your front end, suppose you're using a vanilla JS way, then you need to load this library. If you don't want to use NPM module or don't want to install the client-side Stripe with NPM, then you can use this head tag way. Once you like CDN way, I call it. So once you have that, then you will need a form where you will need to provide the IDs to the elements and then follow the procedure step by step of generating the elements, accepting the payment, and etc. 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 If you don't want to do that, then you could use a React library, which makes your code bit lesser, but you have to do some things there as well as you have to do in the vanilla JS. So let's go back to our React library. So if you want to use this, you need to make sure that you have installed Stripe React.js library, which is this one, and you will need the client-side Stripe. So this I have already installed it and have also already installed the server-side node package, which is this one over here, and we have these two also. So that's great. Now, next thing to do is going to our payment.jsx. So first, we need to use load Stripe function. So we are importing it from @Stripe, Stripe's client-side Stripe package. Then what I'm doing here is I'm loading the Stripe object, which is nothing, it's going to be a promise. So in that, I need to pass the public key. So that's the environment variable I have set in, which is next public Stripe public key. Once we pass that public key, then we need to have, so this is our payment component. There we are taking a prop as a total because we need the total before we can charge the customer. So once the total is there, which is coming from our cart table component, which is nothing but our subtotal, you can add the shipping charge if there are any, or make this as a full total or final total. What we need to do is first we need to have a use effect which will check that whether the total is less than or equal to 0. If it is less than or equal to 0, it shouldn't do anything. It should just skip this part because we need to charge the customer if there is any amount in the basket or if there is any amount greater than 0. Call the local API, which is this one, get intent, which is this one. So inside the get intent, what we are doing is we will be passing the total because that is required to create an intent. Now how it works is you create an intent at a server side, you pass that intent to the client side, and then client Stripe library uses the client secret from this intent and uses it to retrieve the information about the total, about the currency, about the payment method, and other metadata details. So currently we are passing the amount. So this is the amount that's going to come from the request body, and we need to multiply by 100. We need to multiply by 100 because this value is in cents. It's not in pound, even though my currency is pound, but the value is in pence actually. So as this value is in pence, we need to multiply it by 100. And then we just need to provide the currency, like what currency it is. And once this is successful, so we need to have the Stripe object. So that Stripe object, first we include the Stripe library, which is our server-side library. In that Stripe library or the Stripe function, we are passing the Stripe secret key, which is our server-side key. And then from the Stripe object, we are saying, okay, for the payment intents, create a payment intent with this amount or for this amount and for this currency. Once we have the payment intent, we'll simply pass it back to the client. Now going back to the payment.jsx, here we are getting that payment intent and then we are setting options. Now how this works is if I go to the documentation of React Stripe, there you will first need to, so this elements comes from React Stripe.js, then you pass the values. So Stripe promise will be this one and options will be according to the options of the documentation. So you can see the available options, what available options you could use. And inside that you will need a checkout form. So that checkout form will be our another component, which will be our own component. So let's see what's that. So inside this element, so this is our Stripe promise, which is this one over here. So that's our Stripe promise. Then we have the options. So what options we are passing here is, which are coming from the set options. So the options will have the client secret. So you just need to make sure that these keys are as it is. Then we are saying that, okay, in that client secret, we are passing the client secret that is coming from our server. This thing is not needed, so I can remove this. We just need the client secret for now. And that options, which is our use state over here, which is setting the options over here, that's going to go as a prop over here. This is not required as well. And these two things can be accessed inside our checkout form. Now going back to the checkout form, which is this one over here, this one. So inside the checkout form component, we are using two hooks, which is use stripe and use elements hook. So use stripe hook will give us the details about our stripe promise or stripe object, and use elements hook will give us the detail about the elements. Then we will need the payment element. So the payment element is nothing but this entire thing, this card number, expiration, CVC, country, postal code. Everything is a payment element. Only pay button is the button from us. So inside that checkout form, what we need to do here is, so this is our payment element over here. This needs to be wrapped in a form, and this is the button over here. So once we submit the form, it will trigger the handle submit function, which is this one. Here we are first preventing the default action, and we are checking if the stripe and the elements, like these two things, are set correctly. If they are not set correctly, we will just trigger an error saying that, or trigger a notification saying that something went wrong in loading the payment, please refresh the page. You can customize it however you like. Then we will need customer details, because we need to pass in the billing details over here. Now here I'm assuming that the customer is a guest user. It is not like, when I say guest user, it is something like guest user for the Stripe. There is a different thing for Stripe customer. So you can also create a customer for Stripe and save the payment details for further order process or the future orders. So it's a bit faster as well, because your customer don't have to worry about filling the payment detail again and again. The only thing falls on you is making sure that those payment details are saved correctly. So to avoid that risk, currently I'm just making it more like a guest flow for the Stripe customer point of view. So here I need to provide the billing details like this. So there is email, then there are other fields as well. You can also provide name, address. So all that information could be found over here. There we go. So you just need to follow this schema. So here you can provide a city, country, line 1, line 2 if you want to provide a billing address, email, name, and phone. Currently I'm just giving the email because that's what we need. So email, that's it. And then this would come under the payment data. So you just need to make sure that the Stripe confirm payment, there's a separate documentation on this. The confirm payment function takes in an object. So that object is first is your elements, that is coming from here, this one. Then the confirm params, so the return URL. So what to do once your payment is successful? You need to come back somewhere. So this is the return URL. Currently I'm giving this cart page only. You will have the payment method like billing details, email, like extra payment method data you want to pass in this case the billing details, and that's it. Like nothing pretty, like that's pretty much actually. So once we get our customer detail, which will come from our API, so the customer API is nothing but making call to Garchi API. So we can use Garchi's customer API to retrieve customer details. So if I go to the docs, here you will see return a single customer. In that you pass the UID as a URL parameter. We already have the UID stored encrypted in the cookie. So we'll just decrypt it, pass it over here and get the customer details, pass it to the front and back again. And from there, once we have these details set correctly, then we can charge the customer. So this will charge the customer actually. And then if we will see if there is any error. If there is any error, we say, okay, something went wrong, try again. If there are no error, we just say, okay, proceed forward, no problem. Now, once the payment is successful, it will come back to cart. So let me show you what happens actually once we complete the payment. So if I go back over here, go through the payment flow. So 4242424242. Now here, this is a test card. There are a list of test cards, Stripe test cards. So one of them is just 4242424242424242. You just put that card, expiration date. As you could see, like if there is any error, it throws error like this. But for expiration, you need to pass a future date for a test mode. So let's say this is 23, so February 23. CVC, any 3 digits. Postcode could be anything. So I'll just pass this random string. And once we say pay, this goes from here. It will take a bit of time. And then we will get something like this. We'll get a payment intent, then payment client secret, and redirect status success, and many other things. Here, if I go to payments and see the transactions, so if I see only the successful transactions, so here we go. So this is the successful transactions. That was the email logged in, and this is the payment details. So if I click on that, there we go. So the card used and everything is all properly set. So that's how you could like proceed with the Stripe payment. Now next thing to do is making sure that when we visit this page on successful payment, we are either taken to the like some invoice page, like saying that okay, this is your invoice, this is how you what you paid, and etc etc. And we should also make request to the order API, because we need to create the order. So we will be doing this in the next video, where we'll be using order API to create the order and then finishing with the order purchase flow. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you feel this video is worth sharing with your network, please do share with your network. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. So see you in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.